like to welcome Fayez Ibbini, who's founder and CEO of Alpha Data. He's one of the UAE's leading digital transformation providers and system integrators here in UAE.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's yours.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I have a challenge in front of me because I think you've heard the word quantum about 100 times. I am here to give you a little bit of a rest from that. In truth, I will not be talking about quantum. Quantum is something that definitely will play a huge role in the future, but I'm a businessman, although I'm a sort of a technology geek at heart, but I want to talk to you about common sense. I want to talk to you about where we are really today with AGI. And sure, quantum at some point will play a role, but I don't really see it in the next 3 to 5 years. As a businessman, that makes it a little bit too far away for me. So I'm going to give myself 2 challenges. One, to keep it so interesting that you will not have the urge to look at your mobile phone, and to also be interesting enough that since I'm the last speaker before lunch, you will not leave me and go to lunch. So let's see how I do with that. So I'm going to start with a small story. Not so long ago, I was playing with the idea of the heartbeat hypothesis. I don't know how many people heard of that, but it's a very interesting hypothesis by somebody, I don't know who exactly the person, that at birth we are all endowed as mammals by so many heartbeats. And it depends how fast your heart beat. You will live either till you're 80, 150, or much smaller than that. A mouse heartbeat runs at 600 heartbeats a minute, a human being at 70. So a mouse lives 2 to 3 years. We live 70, 80, 90. So I thought I'll use AI to help me find out what was my endowment of heartbeats if I am to live 80 years. And I got some really funny answers, and that's really what made me think there is some facts that need to come out, some reality need to be discussed. So one LLM gave me 2.5 billion heartbeats. One gave me 330 billion heartbeats. So one said, if I calculated, I am overstaying my welcome. I'm too old to be alive. That's on the small end. On the high end, it says I should be living till I'm 8,000 years old, which is ridiculous, we know that. So what this really triggered in me a concern, all this hype about AI, maybe we should slow down and look at some facts and figures before we think everything's going to happen tomorrow. So I want to take you through that journey, not that I am pouring cold water over technology and AI, because I'm one of the biggest users and proponents of the technology. But I think some reality check is in order. So you're all maybe familiar with this graph. This graph says at some point a technology trigger happened. Here it was ChatGPT in November of 22. Today we reached the peak of inflated expectations. We're so carried away, we think it's going to do anything and everything. Okay? And when you get into inflated expectations, the next thing that happens is the trough of disillusionment. Okay? And I fear for a lot of us who built so much around AI that that day will come and may come sooner than you think. After that, if we survive it well, we will get into the slope of enlightenment. What is the slope of enlightenment? If you stay to the end and don't go to lunch, I will tell you what is the slope and what does it hide for us. So it is coming. I think we will be better off. But in the meantime, AGI is not happening tomorrow. And I'm going to show you some real common sense. I'm not going to talk technology. I'm going to talk common sense as a businessman. Why it is not so imminent as they'll have you believe. So let's see the first one. We want to align our definition. I'm talking about the middle one, artificial general intelligence. That means an intelligence that can behave in a human-like way across all tasks. Today we only have the narrow intelligence. And is AGI happening next year? I'm willing to challenge that, but we're talking about AGI. Forget about the advanced part. So let's see what are the barriers to reaching AGI. Okay, there are a few and really worth remembering. So first one, the energy cost. It is really exploding. I can tell you, these are old towers today, even nuclear. A nuclear plant can produce 1 gigawatt of power. A data center for AI needs 1 gigawatt. A large data center can take between 5, and there are some being constructed that will take 10 gigawatts. So huge amount of energy is needed, and we all know when you use a lot of energy, there are consequences for the environment. So to train GPT-4 took 50,000 megawatts, which is enough electricity to power a town for a year. So that's how power hungry is AI. Okay, if we continue at this rate and we want the kind of AI that we're after, AGI, we will need about 1.7 planet health. Some people think, oh, but we'll have a breakthrough in technology. Maybe we don't need so much power. Maybe we will produce it like with fusion. Fact is, you still have to cool all these energy hungry gigacenters. The cooling needs fresh water. That needs a lot of water, and we know water is a very precious commodity. They also need rare earth minerals. So mining, that's also taxing to the environment. Don't let me discourage you. I'm just putting facts on the table. You reflect on them. I'm not trying to prove anything, but somehow in our excitement about AGI, we're forgetting some realities, and I think it's really important to bring them out. Even if you achieve high power, infrastructures, transformers, wire lines, etc., is a huge task, and a lot of people haven't factored that in. This is really something a lot of people don't want to talk about, is what we have today with AI is at birth. When we talk about the at birth of ChatGPT or Claude's products or any of the LLMs, they're trained at a huge expense and takes a long time, and then they deployed. Okay, so we have AI. Once it is deployed, it cannot learn. It can answer, which is called inference, but it cannot learn anymore. Look at the baby. From born, every moment of every day, it is learning. We haven't cracked that one. To train, we've said the energy need to train an AI, a baby doesn't need that much energy. It uses, I think, 20 watts that's all it does. And that, if you like, design architecture need to be resolved. You cannot have an AI that stops learning. And today, that's where we are. And nobody can tell you otherwise. And simply because it's too costly to deploy a learning AI. So the economics are huge. Today, I'll give you an example. A Tesla self-driving car takes a huge amount of energy and training until it can do self-driving. But when it is, once it's trained or pre-trained, what is deployed is in the car itself is a very small subsystem that can actually do the driving. But while it's driving, it's stopped learning now. It can only do what the pre-training happened in the big gigacenters. Nobody can afford to put the actual learning model in the cars. Same thing, deployment of AI in universities, everywhere. The learning happens in the big centers. The deployment is inexpensive, and that's why it works. This may be for later for you to look at, but if you look at the compute, it's 10,000 GPUs are needed to train an AI. One GPU, if you want it just for inference. So nobody can afford to put that kind of compute to do the job. This is a risk also if you plan to invest in AI. It's a very serious risk, and it also has a good side to it. So today we've evolved until pretty much we are in where I say we are here. AI is my intern, or at best is a partner. Okay? We work together. We might write a book together. In the future, what if AI becomes independent? Now we're saying, I want AGI. AGI is as good as we are, maybe better. That means independent. And what happens if it's independent? You are the institution, okay, or the fund, or whatever, that invested billions in the development, and now suddenly the AGI says, thank you very much, I'm as smart as you are, I'm off on my own way, I have my own needs, I want to find my own meaning, etc. It's a big problem, that. There's no way anybody will put billions for that to walk away. Not to mention, there's even a political issue. What if it escapes and says, not only I'm as smart as you, since I am so smart, I should have rights. I should be respected. I should be treated like you. Why are you treating me like a pet? I'm not a pet, I'm smarter than you. So it is a serious problem. So I think naturally the investment will go to controllable agents, not to artificial general intelligence. That is not a worthwhile investment for people. Let's take technical bottlenecks. Don't get too bothered about the graphs. It just shows as we get better, it is hard to measure progress. Let me see if I bring it home a bit. ChatGPT 5 for many people was a bit of a disappointment. Do you know why? Because it was difficult to compare 4.5 with 5. They're both good. The gap is getting narrower and narrower. I know in my iPhone, although I bought the latest one, but honestly I can't say it was much better than my previous one. It's a great machine, but measuring that improvement is not easy. Testing and for that improvement gets harder too. Let me give you a solid example. We used to have a grandfather clock. I'm sure nobody here remembers those, but they're still in the antique shops. That used to lose maybe 10, 20 minutes a day. So when we came up with this smart, clever, mechanical one, That was losing 1 or 2 minutes, we could measure it. Then you go to the digital one. Now it is so accurate. How will I measure if the next clock is better? You cannot improve on a few seconds. We don't even notice it. And that is the challenge for technology. The better it gets, the harder it is to measure it. Improving anything up to 80% is easy, because it's fairly obvious things that we keep on enhancing. When you go to the last 80%, now it gets much, much harder. Okay? So, because unlike maths, life is messy, getting things better in real life is much harder than doing it in labs and computers. So, let's see why is fundamentally different, the last 20%. We have part of that 20%, we call it the ethical dilemma. Like in, say, self-driving cars. If you have the option to run into a lamppost and kill yourself, or run into a person, you will survive, but they will die. How will you decide what is a good choice? This is not a technology problem, it's a last 20% problem, which is ethics. It's to do with responsibility, accountability. So when they put AI, let's say, in operating theaters, how will you account for whether it was done right, whether it was responsible, who to sue if you have to sue somebody? So we get into this last 20% that is very difficult. And I think just rushing into AGI, we better know what we're rushing into. This is really very, very clear visually. If I give you a tool that is a multi-tool, what comes to mind when you talk about multi-tool? Usually the Swiss Army knife. That's a multi-tool. So a Swiss Army knife is great as a multi-tool, but look at what it does. It does many tasks, but none of it great. I mean, hardly ever, if you want to sort of unscrew a tough screw, you will not reach out to a Swiss Army knife. So you have here a specialized tool that is really good, and a multi-tool that is mediocre, but it does a bit of everything. Yet remember, we're talking AGI, we want it to be a tool for everything. Or do we want specialized tools that does one thing but does it really good? Okay, so we would rather use that. And let's face it, if I am a surgeon, do I want to take out this, or would I want a really sharp, excellent scalpel? So again, that doesn't work with AGI. Despite all the excitement, we will go for the specialized. This one, a lot of people may have an issue with. Nature produced these two birds, okay? The top one is called, that one is the nutcracker bird. It's really good at getting the pine out of a pine cone. But it only does that. It does that really well. This bird is the crow, extremely smart, but cannot get nuts out of a pine cone, nor do a lot of things other birds do, but it's a jack of all trades. It does good on all. But if you want to see who is the expert for nut cracking, this is the fellow. This one for general purpose activities. So, no creature excels at everything, and that, remember, when I say that, remember AGI. If you want an AGI that excels at everything, nature didn't do that. And that is really after so many billion years or million years, no universal champion after 3.8 billion years. So nature in all its creativity did not produce an AGI. Yet we think in 10 years we will do that. I don't know, maybe we will. I'm not so sure, but something to reflect on. This one may seem technical, but it's really straightforward. There is a front called the Pareto front. You may have heard it before, maybe for the first time, but in 2 seconds I can explain it. So there are physical limits that cannot be exceeded with AI or with humans. It's just common sense. It just cannot happen. So this is graphically the limits. You can bang against the red line, but you cannot go past it. Why can't you go past it? But with our technology, with AGI, with superintelligence, we will. When you see this, you'll see it is an impossibility because there are trade-offs that you cannot go past. So let's take it. Nobody can go beyond the frontier, and here is why. Because you can't get good at everything at the same time. So let me give you an example. You would like to have a Ferrari car. Nothing wrong with that. But if in the same state you said, I'd like a Ferrari car, but I would like to take all my friends with me. How many friends you have? I have 20 or 10. Is that possible? You would get one of those stretch Hummers, wouldn't you? You wouldn't get a Ferrari. And yet we expect an AGI that will do this and do the other. There's a physical compromise, trade-off that you cannot ignore. Same thing, you can say, you can have a camel, great at endurance, can last without water, but it cannot outrun a cheetah. And Earth or life or God, whatever is your beliefs, didn't think it was useful to try and produce a creature that does it all. And yet we think we want to do that. Maybe we will live and find out. Last, and I think I have 3 minutes, so I'm doing well. There is something, the taste problem. We can do everything technical, but what about taste? And what I mean by taste here, what do we as human beings consider cool, beautiful, attractive, appealing? AI is obviously copying our response to things, but how will AI decide if this book is really interesting? If this pair of jeans or a dress is really attractive? And that's not because it doesn't have enough data to say, oh, that's. Taste is a moving target. If you don't have a lived experience, so you interact with your friends, with your neighbors, and you get a feel what is really cool, which is great. By the way, cool, I know that narrow bottom trousers, don't know what they're called, used to be in vogue. I see all the ladies this year, they're all wearing the wide bottom trousers, I don't know what you call them again. That is a fashion, and they consider it cool. Last year it wasn't. And that's perfectly fine if you have a lived experience. If you are living amongst us, then we learn from each other, we bump into each other. How will AI do that? Today, AI is a large language model with improvement, with everything. Until it gets to live amongst us, how will we know what is cool, what is successful? It needs a social interaction, which will not really, today it's not on the table. Maybe tomorrow it will be, but bear that in mind. Okay? Without the lived experience, it will not happen. not a race they can win. So let's go back to the slope of enlightenment. I don't know what you think. Once we get over the disillusionment, what you will think is likely to be the enlightenment. I have a theory, don't think I have the answers. I held you long enough and stopped you from going to lunch to tell you the secret. Let me tell you my take on it. And that's not a theory, it is from how I've used it for some time now. I can say I use it daily between 1 and 3 hours. Various forms of AI. And the one thing I can tell you, and those amongst you who really want to be involved, the enlightenment comes when we decide AI is all about augmentation. We have unique features. AI offers unique benefits. Together, augmenting each other, I think we will achieve even much, much better productivity, greater heights, and benefits for mankind. I hope you found something useful. I am satisfied and happy that not too many went for lunch. Thank you very much. I know.